What's up, everybody? This your boy Nate Drink from the Nate Drink One Sports Podcast channel, and I wanted to stop by and ask you for your support and your help on my channel and also on my show channel at A Drink of Wisdom. I drop new episodes every Saturday, and you can catch me on all the social media platforms under Nate Drink One. And with that said, here go a quick snippet of one of my most recent shows. Thanks for your support, and remember, let's talk some sports, baby. And I'm out. Day better than yesterday. And you know what we gonna do. We gonna holler at you until next time, baby.
All right, fellas. The NFL Week 1 is in the books. Long-awaited return of the NFL got underway this weekend, and well, we had some expected results, but it was also full of surprises. You know, your top-tier quarterbacks like Rodgers, Wilson, and Jackson led their teams to decisive victories. Teams like Washington and Jacksonville shocked their critics and pulled off upsets. But then there was the other side of the coin, where Minnesota got boat raced, Cleveland disassembled, the Bengals blew it. These Super Bowl runner-ups got ran up, and that's not even the surface. So, Jay, give me your biggest takeaways from Week 1.
Well, let's just start a little bit backwards and let's talk about one of the and this is not going to be this isn't a huge deal for them going forward. They've just taken themselves in a different direction. But the Carolina Panthers took one on the chin this weekend. Not only did they lose the game against the Las Vegas Raiders, but the two folks that they let go mid-season and then in the offseason, that would be Ron Rivera and Cam Newton. Well, those guys had a multitude of success in Week 1. Ron Rivera is the biggest winner of Week 1 in my estimation. You think about the clown show that franchise has been, the offseason with name changes, or you can't even call it a name change. They did a name deletion because they didn't even add one back, and then just the Washington Post bombshell report where they just been cutting up for years, with all that. And Ron Rivera just sitting there gotta be wondering, why did I even bother with this? I should have went to Dallas or New York or Cleveland, just some type of different job. But still comes out there and, oh, by the way, got a cancer diagnosis on him. But he come out, got that team prepared, kept them focused. They were down 17-0 early, and they just kept after it. They dominated the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. They were in Carson Wentz's face all day. Didn't have a chance in the second half. Dwayne Haskins looking like a competent NFL quarterback. That was good to see. But for a lot of credit to Ron Rivera and Cam Newton. I mean, we talked about it was such a travesty that Cam Newton had to wait that long for a phone call. He looked solid in Week 1. It was pretty. You think about it, it's pretty quick for him to get fully acclimated. But I like as expected. It looks like the Patriots made some revisions to what they do. Cam Newton ran the football 15 times for 75 yards. I think that's a little too much for my liking. But if anybody's capable of doing that and taking that punishment, it is Cam Newton. He was efficient through the air. He was 15 of 19. There was a lot of things to like about that performance. But then just, some of the other quarterback performances. I thought on Monday night, Big Ben Roethlisberger, he had a little bit of a slow start, but he picked it up as the game went along. I told you about that receiving group. I think they're slightly underrated. Juju did a nice job. Deontay Johnson, James Washington, Chase Claypool, the rookie from Notre Dame, had a really big catch. And their defense is something. Their defense is something special. I think T.J. Watt's going to be a defensive player of the year. I really do. So they're going to be fun to watch. And then the upper echelon quarterbacks, your MVP and runner-up last season, or at least in my mind, Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson, absolutely outstanding debuts. And you talk about surprises. I think we're all on the same page, and we were all on the same page of thinking Minnesota was going to win the NFC North. It's looking a little questionable after that Week 1 performance. It would appear that Mike Zimmer defense is going to have some growing pains, particularly with I don't believe they have a cornerback over 24 years of age with Jeff Gladney, Cameron Dantzler, and some other young guys that they got to incorporate back there, despite having two very good safeties. So we'll see. But that was you don't want to give up 43 points in Week 1, 364 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Devontae Adams 14 for $156. What a performance that was! And New Orleans. New Orleans looks like, to me, I think they're in the Super Bowl this year. I think they're that well rounded. I think Drew Brees. I don't think you need the Drew Brees of old to where he just need to be absolute 5,000 yards prolific. I think they're well put together with Kamara, Jared Cook, offensive line. They're solid, and I think their defense. Is very good, and they can help you. And then, by the way, speaking of losers, Tampa Bay may be good, but they just look week one with no preseason. It ain't so easy. And you talked about it kind of with the Clippers. It ain't that easy to just throw a bunch of dudes together and just all of a sudden see it materialize. It just didn't happen in week one, and it's going to come down for the Bucks. Their offensive line and secondary. That's what it's going to be. And there look like there are some worrisome things for that O-line. Donovan Smith don't look too good at left tackle. I'll just leave it at that.
So, I think Jay, he hit the nail on the head with the first. Listen, the Redskins winning the game, and I don't care how they won the game. The fact that they won the game should be headlining news. We talking about a team that couldn't even get the name together. You got an owner out here, acting a full donkey, and if it wasn't for sponsorship, he'll still be out here acting a donkey as we speak. But listen, I left this weekend looking at the Redskins, and for the first time since Dwayne Haskins has been wearing a Redskins jersey, I thought maybe the guy got a chance. Maybe he can play a little more than I gave him credit for. I was impressed with the comeback. Equally disappointed with the Eagles. I don't understand how you just blow this lead like that. Doug Peterson, championship coach, Carson Wentz, former MVP candidate, I don't know what we got going on here. And actually, that first round pick that they had, that people was like, oh my God, they reached for, that guy had a good game. He had a nice ball he dropped in the bucket to old Jalen Reagor. However, with all that said, you still lost the game. So something ain't right here. So let's get back to that drawing board and see what's going on here. But listen, you look at the NFC East division and look and see who number one. And it's time to go buy you some scratch-offs because this is getting wild out here. You know what I'm saying? You might get you a little money. But that was my biggest takeaway. And then the second one was Joe Burrow. Listen, here's the deal. We had Joe Burrow, Tua. We had what's his name?
Herbert.
Justin Herbert, right? We had and then you had Jordan Love towards the end of the round get drafted.
He didn't play week one? What? Whoa.
So we had those four quarterbacks go in the first round. The only one that really played was Joe Burrow. And listen, I would say this. I got to put a little more respect on Joe Burrow's name. I thought he played well in his first start, rookie quarterback for the Bengals. Now, the Bengals should have won the game, no doubt. But I can't take that away from Joe Burrow for what I thought of Joe Burrow and for how he played. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and he should only get better from this point. I tell you, man, they say this guy got a cool head and he don't wither under the lights. That's what he showed me in his first NFL start. I mean, I thought he was out there looking pretty smooth. Did he make mistakes? Absolutely. He's a rookie. His first start in the NFL. This is the top level of football, American level football. Of course he made mistakes. That's fine. But I thought he held himself pretty accountable. And if you're a Bengals fan, you got to like what you see. And that offense looked like it could take a step forward for the positive in the future. And then my third takeaway was, listen, the referees need a preseason too. This is outrageous. I've seen a couple of games, a couple of blips, slips, and rips, and the referees clearly could have used a couple of unpainted field preseason games to get a couple of these calls out. Because let me just tell you, I know replay is there to correct calls, but we can't go to replay every third play. Like, come on, man. You turn a 3-hour game into 6 hours with this mess. Like, come on, man. Like, oh, you got this wrong. The review. Like, come on, man. Like, Can we get it right on the first? Can we get some of these calls right on the first try? And then as soon as they start this mess, you hear the commentators, well, we didn't have a preseason, and the referees used the preseason. Listen, I got that, but we should have thought about that when we canceled the preseason. Like if we're gonna hold players accountable and we're gonna hold coaches accountable and everybody else that didn't have a preseason, but God dog it, the refs need to be accountable too. I don't know how they practice what they practice, but they should have been practicing. Should have been out there rolling tape, looking for certain telltale signs to know if the call go right or wrong. I don't know, but they dragged some games out with all these replays, and it was a bit much, I thought. Outside of that, those were my three biggest takeaways from week one.
Yeah, I think week one, the biggest thing is to not get too overreacting with week one. I think a lot of people love to, especially this season where everything was so anticipated, the whole season was so in question. We finally get what we're waiting for, and it's like you just want to sink your teeth so far into it. Like, y'all covered the Eagles really well, and hey, no excuse for that, really. But you will say that the Redskins do have a legitimate front seven on their defense. I told you about that. They had a couple first-round picks. They just drafted possibly one of the best pass rushers of his generation if his trajectory continues. I mean, there's a lot to like in that front seven. And the Eagles were without two of their starting offensive linemen. So, 8 sacks, it happens. But, is Washington going to win a whole bunch of games and win the NFC, their division? Probably not. Tampa Bay week one, I'm not looking to overreact to that. The Saints are a very, very good team in the Superdome. Like Jay said, they're one of the most well put together teams in the league, top to bottom. You got a veteran quarterback. I'm not going to be super down on the Tampa Bay experiment yet, but there was a lot of question marks. I mean, Tom Brady looked bad. I mean, he looked straight up bad. I mean, 2 interceptions. I mean, you might as well have let old famous Jameis out there. At least they'll give you some good highlights too. I mean, it's questionable, but I'd like to see that another week before we go too crazy. But a couple things that I think did really kind of stick out with the Vikings. You can't get boat race like that. I mean, you're expected to win that division. I mean, that's bad. 43 points. You got some corner problems and whatnot, but you traded for Ngakoue. You got a couple other dudes you've messed around with. That's bad. And Cleveland, the disassembly. What we asked, Drink? We asked last week when we did our preview. We said, is there an adult in the room in Cleveland? I don't think either one of us thought that, and Jay included, I'm sure he would have thought the same thing, that Cleveland was going to win the game. We all probably would have picked Baltimore. Yeah. But 38-6, I mean, just a complete disassembly. Odell Beckham's on the trade block. I mean, what? It's week one. Like the tires have just come completely off, it feels like and those are the first two I feel like, we'll have a tempered reaction to. Those two though, there's some pretty big warning signs already. And y'all know if I didn't get 30 seconds to talk about my Jaguars winning week one, I'd be remiss. Gardner Minshew, 19 of 20, buck 73, 3 touchdowns, only quarterback in NFL history to put those kind of stats up. C.J. Henderson was one of the best defensive players in the league week one. He was matched up against T.Y. Hilton. He gave him the business. He gave Phillip Rivers the business, picked him off on a beautiful read. But I'm not going to get too ahead of myself here. I understand. I'm not a naive fan. I'm not a complete idiot. I've watched a lot of losing Jaguars football. But
we'll check back next week.
Exactly. They're going to Nashville where they haven't won since 2013. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I will say this rookie class looked really good. They got a lot of contributions, and this team played a little different. They weren't making a ton of mistakes, and the narrative the Jaguars are going to be the worst team in the league, I don't think that's right to begin with, but there's a couple teams like Washington also might be making some early noise of, hey, we're not going to be as bad as you think. So I think a couple teams like maybe the Jets have slipped down to being maybe that bad. There was a couple teams week one that really didn't have good performances. So I think that the narratives are going to switch a little bit. But hey, good on them week one. That's awesome.
Let me just jump back on Cleveland real quick because I want to point out one point to the good to give them a little benefit of the doubt, but then there's one more that just can't be defended. If there was ever a time that, and you're right, you can't excuse getting boat raced to that degree. But if there were a team that it was going to happen, it was going to be Baltimore. Baltimore can do that to a lot of teams. But to start off did you see the fake punt in the first quarter? Did you see the fake punt on 4th and 4 from their own 30-yard line? They just punt it, just run on there. Ridiculous decision, and that is not what I want to see. And Drink's been talking Stefanski up a little bit, and that is not what Cleveland Brown fans want to see. I know maybe you think, oh, good idea, let's surprise them with a fake punt. No, this is Baltimore. This is Baltimore. John Harbaugh, a former special teams
He's a
coach.
special teams coach.
He ain't playing with this. I mean, it don't hurt to play a little conventional right off the bat. No one's going to kill you if you lose to Baltimore. But you can't get embarrassed to that degree. And Baker Mayfield, that's terrible. This is a make-or-break season for him, and that was not a good start.
Yeah, finally we'll wrap up with DeAndre Hopkins, 151 yards. Just signed his contract, good for him. And two coaches on the hot seat, Dan Quinn and our old friend with the pencil in his ear, both took pretty big L's week one for different reasons.
They're getting fired.
They lamed up. They both lamed up. Yeah.
So it ain't looking good for them, and it ain't looking good for Adam Gase in New York as he goes on. So plenty more action to come, though.